Standing rib roast. It is sacred to my Christmas celebration, and honestly, no other meaty meal gives me anything close to the satisfaction that I extract from chomping down on one of these, especially one particular part, which we'll get to in a bit. All right, let's start with some anatomy though. A standing rib roast is a roast taken from the rib primal of the bovine critter, which sits behind the shoulder or chuck and in front of the loin. Well, that's a lady cow, and steaks are typically cut from steers. And a steer is, look, I don't have time for this, just work with me. This roast is typically fabricated to contain a part of up to 7 rib bones, as well as part of the chine, spine. Individual roasts are often either 3 or 4 bone, as that adds up to 7. Where your roast is cut from along the continuum matters, as the structure at the loin end is significantly leaner than that of the chuck end. What really matters for me when I'm shopping is that the end looks like this. Okay, we've got some ribs, right? There is some fat cap, the eye muscle, nice and distinct, and then the cap, the spinalis dorsi, or dorsi, frickin' delicious. And I like to see a bit of fat between those two muscles. This roast was not butchered very well because the fat cap was over-trimmed, apparently with some kind of yard implement of some type. Kids, if you can find a good butcher, hold them close and always tip well. Now, a word about grading. This is a choice grade rib roast, not a prime rib roast, which would have a lot more intramuscular fat. Now, I want to be clear right up front that the method that I am sharing is based on my personal preferences. I do not call my method the ultimate or the best or superlative or elevated or even the most scientific, okay? I have arrived at this method without the use of graphs, charts, really anything but a calendar, a thermometer, a scale, a dozen or so spiral-bound notebooks, and a clutch of pencils. So the only adjective that I can add to this is that this is my method. No more, no less. Are we clear? Perfect. Behold this year's roast. I strive to obtain said beast hunk at least 5 days prior to cooking. On the day I get it home, here's what I do. I roll out about 6 feet of cheesecloth, readily available at most kitchenware stores, as well as online, of course, and I cut it in half right up the middle. I fetch my roast, unwrap it, of course, lay it at the end of piece number 1, and just roll it up. I then rotate it 90 degrees and roll long ways in piece number 2. I place this parcel on a cooling rack inside a quarter sheet pan. And to take up minimum space, I usually tie it so that it'll stand up on its side a little bit. And I leave this in the refrigerator for 4 to 5 days, during which time there will be some moisture loss via evaporation. But mostly, this is about really drying the outer surface to help create a crunchy brown exterior later. But let me be clear about this. This is not the same as dry aging, which is a complex process wherein large cuts are placed in highly controlled environments for temp and humidity, regulated exactly, sometimes for months, in order to promote flavorful enzymatic changes inside the meat itself, okay? This ain't that. This is just really drying, not aging. But I strongly believe that it's worth the time if you've got it, and of course a little refrigerator real estate to hold the thing. Now you'll notice that I did not take a big scary knife and cut off the slab of the ribs and then tie them back onto the roast, as many chefs advocate and as many butchers actually do. This isn't to say that I don't cut off the ribs. I do, but later, after cooking and resting. Why? Because I like it that way. And I'll show you why. Soon enough. Now, when we're about an hour and a half away from cooking, it's time to contemplate the trio of flavors that we're bringing to the party. Well, technically 2 flavors, as the bovine is bringing the first in the form of beef tallow or rendered beef drippings, which I just happen to have on hand. Now, tallow is technically different from just rendered beef fat because it's made mostly from suet. It's the fat around the kidneys. It's harder and drier than other forms of beef fat. It's been refined before packaging. It makes its way into a lot of products, including the beard balm I'm wearing right now. My dogs love to lick it off my face. Too much information. Rendered beef fat is really just drippings that you collect and heat to remove the water, strain, and store. Fine with me. We also require kosher salt, about 2 teaspoons per bone, so 8 teaspoons here. And it really does need to be kosher because we need it to cling to the surface, which is what kosher salt does best. Then there's black pepper. It's a spice that people tend to gloss over and treat it like, this kind of this quotidian dark dust. But it really is the spice for beef, in my opinion. And I could use an electric spice mill or coffee grinder, but I want more control. And I get that from this small hand Japanese grinder. I think it was actually made for coffee. It's got a ceramic grind head, which is important, and it stands on a cup that catches whatever comes out, which is great. I figure about 25 grinds to get what I need. Something oddly satisfying about that motion. Anyway, the pepper goes into the salt, and we're ready for the rub down. So unwrap the meat, and then I literally massage it with 2 tablespoons of my beef fat. You really want to work it in there, okay? Don't be too gentle. Then pack on the spices. And I do this with kind of a sprinkle pat combo. And don't forget to give some love to the rib side too. Now once that's all on, take a moment and really just rub the spices into the meat. Contact is key. You don't want anything falling off. Time now for the thermometer, which I have set to go off at 118 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay, to insert, find the little ridge that runs across the bottom of the fat cap and go up about 1 inch and insert horizontally at least 3 inches in, hopefully into the eye muscle. Make sure that you have got an oven rack in the bottom third of your box. Insert the roast there into the box, and then and only then crank the heat to a mere 250 degrees. Now, this is the beginning of a long, low climb to that 118 degrees, which is our target for medium rare. It's going to take about an hour per bone, I'm going to guess, usually. This is really just a reverse sear, like you would do with a ribeye steak. The goal, slowly bring the interior up to a relatively, obviously, low temperature for the sake of internal evenness. Then we're going to rest the meat while we make the Yorkshire pudding, which is basically a giant popover that we'll tear up and use to taco pieces of meat. Anyway, then we will finally sear the roast in a wicked hot oven to get a nice exterior sear. Pink inside, sear it on the outside. That's what we want. Meanwhile, do keep an ear out for that thermometer alarm, okay? Batter up. Combine 4 eggs, 1½ teaspoons of kosher salt, 2 cups of whole milk, and 280 grams of all-purpose flour. I usually use a stick blender on this, just briefly, but whatever works for you is fine. But then cover that and just stash it at room temperature until go time. Oh, also, we need a 12-inch cast iron skillet up on deck and ready to go. At this point, we just wait and have wine or cocktails and see what everybody else brings to the party, because I'm not cooking anything else. Nope. When 118 Fahrenheit is attained, carefully remove the roast, being mindful of the hot drippings in the pan. Now park that roast in just a still warm spot in your kitchen. No need to cover it. And don't pull out the probe just yet. I like to see the carryover do its thing. All right, meanwhile, slide that iron skillet into the oven and boost the heat to 400 degrees. Now, at this point, harvest 4 tablespoons of the drippings from underneath the roast. Turkey baster is pretty good for this, even though it's utterly useless for basting turkeys, which makes it a doppeltasker, which is, we'll get into that some other time. It doesn't really matter. Okay, you're going to mix this tasty fat into the batter with the mixer running, or else it'll set up into clumps. When the oven finally hits 400, okay, add the other 2 tablespoons of fat directly to the skillet and swirl or brush to evenly cover. That's important. Then pour in the batter, and quickly but carefully return to the oven and cook until puffy and brown, about 30 minutes. And when I say puff, it's going to go up like a souffle, but it will soon deflate. I'd be happy to show you, but the window on my oven is somewhat occluded. Okay, when the pudding comes out, just set it on the cooktop. Leave it in the pan for now. And crank the oven to its highest heat possible. For most of us, 550, right? And then immediately pull the probe out of the roast. You might note the final carryover temperature because that'll be the final internal temperature, and then slide it into the oven for 10 minutes. There will be smoke, good smelling, appetite bell ringing, smoke detecting, tickling smoke. So do whatever you need to do to deal with that. And when 10 minutes is up, you know, I think I'm just gonna shut up at this point and watch. So here we have everything we need for a perfect Christmas dinner, right? We've got our fabulous slabs of roast beast. Those are pretty great. And of course, we've got our sexy Yorkshire pudding. And bringing them together into the perfect holiday meal really couldn't be simpler. You just grab yourself a chunk of this, right? Like that, right? And you grab yourself some roast beast like this and kind of make yourself a sandwich like that. And of course, it would be nice if somebody brought some horseradish sauce. Probably that'll happen. Anyway, that's really, you don't even need utensils. You don't need anything. But this isn't my favorite. Remember those ribs? Come here. Remember these guys? Remember? They don't look so good right now, but well, just hold that thought. That's my very favorite. Matter of fact, it's my favorite part of standing rib roast. It's my favorite part of Christmas. It's my favorite part of the year. My life, maybe? I don't know. Happy holidays.